Have you ever heard the phrase sink or swim? For some, it's the idea of being thrown into the middle of an unfamiliar situation to see how a person will respond. Others may have a much more literal understanding of the phrase because they get flashbacks of being thrown into the deep end of the pool when they were 5. The first time you find yourself in water that is over your head, it can be a terrifying experience. It's foreign, it's unnatural, it's smothering. All you can do is fight as hard as you can to get your head above water and take a breath. If you've ever gotten your feet stuck in deep mud, you can imagine how much scarier it would be to find yourself in over your head in thick, smothering quicksand. It would almost be impossible to even move. But what if you were born in it? Now, I know that sounds crazy, but hear me out. Imagine there was a group of people who had special helmets that allowed them to breathe under the quicksand. They still wouldn't be able to move very well, but at least they could live. If a baby was born in the quicksand and grew up wearing her special helmet, she might go her entire life without realizing that there is a whole world above her where she could move and dance and run. Wouldn't that be sad? Unfortunately, that's exactly what happens to far too many people in our world. You see, we are all born into a life of sin. And some people live their lives utterly drowning in sin without ever realizing that there is a better way to live. But the good news of the gospel is that the God who created the universe sent his son to show us a better way to live. And that son eventually died a criminal's death so that we can be washed clean of our sins. He made it possible for us to experience life outside of the quicksand. In C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia, there is a story of 2 kids who find themselves being chased by a group of bullies. As they attempt to escape the bullies, they cry out to a lion named Aslan to save them. Moments later, they find themselves in Narnia and face to face with Aslan. The great lion says there is a reason that he called them into Narnia. Puzzled, the 2 children say, "But Aslan, we cried out to you to save us." And the lion responds, "You would not have called to me unless I had first been calling to you." Jeremiah 31:3 says, "I have loved you, my people, with an everlasting love. With unfailing love, I have drawn you to myself." You see, before we ever realize that there is life outside the quicksand, God is at work in our lives. He is calling us to himself. He is beckoning us out of the sin that consumes our lives. This is what theologians refer to as prevenient grace. God's grace is at work in our lives before we ever even hear the name Jesus. Even now, he is calling us to experience the freedom of life outside of the quicksand. He is calling us to a life free of sin. He is calling to us with the hope that we will one day call out to him.